Hi everyone, this is Selena Kraus and welcome to another card video. In this video, I'll show you how to make this card using Concord and 9th Fill-in Blooms bundle that comes with the stamp set, and as well there is a die set to coordinate. So let's get started. I'm using the large the background, and I'll be stamping it in Versamark. So in order to stamp on my panel, I'll be using the Creative Corners from My Sweet Petunia. So here's the stamp, and I position my paper. If see here, if I position it somewhere in the corner, that stamp will overlap. So I'm just using the Creative Corners to offset that for a little bit. And then using some temporary adhesive on the back, I put in my MISTI grit paper sheet, and then positioning that stamp on top of it. Then I'll remove the creative corner and pick up the background stamp with my MISTI lid. So here I was careful to not pull up that piece of cardstock. It's solar white, 80 pound. So it's nicely positioned. So next I applied the embossing body or the embossing powder tool to my cardstock because I'll be embossing this layer. I'm stamping it with Versamark ink. So next, carefully I pull that off my stamp, and I'm gonna apply some gold embossing powder from Hero Arts. So I'm making sure that my background is nicely and evenly covered before I go and heat set that embossing powder. So here we're done. Here's our background, and now I'm using a Wagner heat tool to melt the embossing powder, and you can see here how it gets shiny as it melts along the way. So we're almost done here. So that's super shiny, and I love the gold, how it came out. So next I'll position it in my MISTI. I start using the mini MISTI, and then I transfer it to the original MISTI. You will see, because I'll be using again the Creative Corners to stamp those images that are off the edges. So I'm using Caterpillar Designs inks. So first I'm starting with green tea to stamp the leaves on each of the blooms. So here, you notice I already moved to the original MISTI, and I'm stamping the ones that are they're coming off the page. So here we're almost done. Next I'll be going with the smaller flower, like the little buds, flower buds, and I'm positioning those and picking them up with the lid of my MISTI, and I'll be using some Caterpillar Designs Sauna ink. So I'm just stamping those one by one. So you need to make sure that they're nicely positioned. They're very easy to position though, so no worries about that. So here's the last one. I'm kind of speeding along the way. So next I'll stamp the bloom. So I'm starting with the outer part, and I'll be using Aquatini ink, and as I go towards the center of the flower, I'll be using darker and darker inks. So next I'm going off the corner. I'll turn it around and stamp the other ones that are on top or bottom, however you want to take it. So there is that one. We have a couple more to go. There is one more. And I'm using few magnets here to make sure that my paper stays nicely positioned into my MISTI so it doesn't move and I don't mess up my image. So next I'm going with the smaller bloom, and I'm using the Daydream ink from Caterpillar Designs. And here you notice there's a gap on one of the petals that was an defect in my stamp, but you will see how I'll fix it. Not to worry, Concord and 9th right away sent me a replacement stamp for that one. So right now it's nice and even. So I'm using the micro tip applicators to fill in the gaps, and you won't even know that actually there was defect in the original stamp. So we're done with that. Next I'm positioning the center of the flower, and I'm be stamping it with even darker ink. I'll be using the Juniper Mist to stamp the center. So I'll be going around and do the same for every flower onto my panel. Next I'm going with the second step of the leaves, and I'm using the Eucalyptus, or however is it pronounced, from again Caterpillar Designs. All the inks that I'm using here are Caterpillar Designs. So I'm stamping that second step of the leaves all around my panel. And next I will stamp the little buds of the flowers. And I'm using the Royal Treatment ink pad. So next is the smallest leaves. And we're done here. Next we'll just do some die cutting and trim the panel before that. So I'll do some die cutting with the coordinating die. I'm using some vellum. And then the dies, I'll be using some shimmer navy cardstock. So there's my die, and I'm using the Celebrate You, and I'll adhere that onto my vellum. So I'm just removing the excess parts of my die cuts. Next I'm using multi-matte medium. Before that I'll be using again shimmer navy for my card base to coordinate with my die cuts. So there's my shimmer navy that will go together like that. So before I'll adhere the Celebrate and You using multi-matte medium, and I'll put acrylic block on top of it so it stays flat onto the vellum as the adhesive dries. So there's the Celebrate, and I'll just do You on the bottom. In the meantime I'll leave that for a little bit to dry. So next I'll adhere You, and then I'll adhere the little circle in the middle after this had dried and adhered for a little bit. So there's You. And I left that for a couple minutes. So there's the middle of the O. So next I'll use some glue dots and vellum tape to adhere that vellum piece onto my gold panel. So I applied the glue dots onto the U, and then I'm applying the vellum tape under the Celebrate. So I'll remove the backing, adhere that, trim the side with my scissors, and then using fan foam I will adhere it onto my navy, shimmery navy base, and that will finish my card. So here is the finished card, and you can see the gold shine. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, as well visit my blog, and see you soon in another video. Bye!